Real estate agents, in this video, I'm going to reveal the exact framework and strategy that I used to go from literally in 2020, a broke caddy. I was $30,000 in debt, working 12 hours, 13 hours every single day, carrying golf bags for 14 or 15 miles every single day, to in less than 36 months, I was able to generate over $1.5 million in real estate commissions. And more importantly, now I train tens of thousands of agents just like you how to do the exact same thing. In this video, guys, I'm going to reveal the 3-step process that I use to go from dirt broke in debt to top producing agent. Before I break this down, guys, I want to get really real with you. For most of us, and as you guys have probably seen me share in other videos, real estate for a lot of us was a plan B. Before real estate, before I got my license in 2020, I had launched probably well over 12 different LLCs, and most of them ended up being complete failures. They were actually complete failures. That's why I ended up in real estate. When I got my license as a realtor in 2020, the thought of becoming a real estate agent was actually born probably in 2016 or 2017. But like a lot of you guys may be watching this video, whether you've been in the game for a little bit, maybe you're brand new, or maybe you've been in the game for a while, I also thought that real estate, cold calling, and everything that had to do with being a real estate agent was completely saturated, right? Fast forward, when I got my license in 2020, I was in a situation, if you guys have seen some of my previous videos, where I needed to make money right away. I was working a full-time job as a caddy at a golf course, making money that I didn't want to make and doing things that I no longer wanted to do. So I gave myself a 90-day window to exit that job. When I got started and I first walked into my office, although I was very aggressive and I had a very set mindset that I was going to become the best and I was going to become a top producer that first year, I also didn't have confidence, guys. I didn't have confidence to get on the phones. I didn't know who to call. I didn't know, when I did get the leads to call, I didn't know how to structure them. I didn't know how to prioritize them. I didn't know what to say to these leads. I didn't know how to manage and overcome the objections. I was also scared of getting rejected. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all human beings and none of us want to have somebody tell you to F off on the phone, okay? Even when I started getting into conversations and I started booking appointments, like I don't know if you guys have ever had this fear. Some of my students have shared it with me. Like, you guys are in a point where you're not maybe scared to get on the phone and call, but you have no idea what to do at the appointment, so you don't even get on the phone because you're like, if I get an appointment, I have no idea what to do next. So all these feelings that you guys might be feeling right now, I had as well. And a lot of my students have had as well. And they've found that the formula and the framework that I'm going to reveal for you right now over the next 10 or 15 minutes has been able to completely transform their confidence levels, their skill sets, and more importantly, their conversion rates. So I'm going to get right into this, guys. The first thing I'm going to talk about, and what I specialize in was for sale by owners. I did some expireds as well. Whether you guys are doing circle prospects, old expireds, for rent by owners, for sale by owners, expireds, this framework and this process can work exactly the same, okay? And here's the 3 things that we're gonna talk about. The first thing that I focus on in the beginning as a new agent, needing more business, instead of saying yes to opportunities and just taking on any buyer, any renter, or any seller, and basically just begging for business, the first part of this process that I'm gonna teach you guys was actually what I call selective prospecting. So let's say, for example, right, I decided to specialize in one niche, which was for sale by owners. Instead of just going on Zillow or going on a dialer and calling random for sale by owners, I created a process to prioritize. For example, if there was 200 or 300 for sale by owners in a given market, I wanted to spend my time calling the ones that had the best opportunity to close. That's the first part of the framework that I'm going to dive right back into. The second part of the framework is actually having the phone conversations. So I was able to develop a phone call strategy, a cold call framework that was, instead of like, because I was in an office, guys, when I first started, I joined Keller Williams. And I was in an office where it was kind of like a bullpen. If you guys have ever seen like the Wolf of Wall Street, you walk in, it's a bunch of desks and like a bunch of computers and a bunch of guys with like headsets on. That is what the Keller Williams office was. And when they threw the scripts in front of me and I started reading through these scripts, I'm like, I'm not going to say who they were, but I was like, dude, there's no way this works, man. Like if I was, and that's what kind of, turned the bulb in my head too. I was like, if I was the person on the other side of the phone, this is not going to work. Like if someone calls me and says this shit, I am not going to answer the phone, right? And then I started seeing all these other reps, like get there 7:30 a.m., role play 8:30 a.m., get on the phone, put on these headsets and start like regurgitating what they were reading off a script. And I'm like, there's no way this stuff works. So I rolled up my sleeves and I basically dissected every training video, every coaching course, every program that was related to for sale by owners. And I started making phone calls in a completely different way. And I don't know if you guys remember that scene of like Leonardo DiCaprio where he was in that penny stock room when he finally got the job as a stockbroker, as a penny broker, and he went on the phone. And by the way, what we do is completely different than what Leonardo DiCaprio did, but he got off the phone, or he was on the phone, and everybody was kind of like looking around at him, and he landed a deal. He sold like 6,000 stocks, whatever the number was, and everybody was like, how the fuck fuck did you do that? I got off the phone, it was probably like day 3 or 4 after watching, a ton of training videos, going through almost every free script that was out there. And at this point, probably making a few hundred calls as well, which is also what separated me from most agents, that I was able to get on the phone right away and just take the fear, take the rejection. I hung up the phone on like day 3 and I got an appointment. It was not good, but everybody around me was like, how the fuck did you do that? And over the next 24 months, I developed this almost bulletproof for sale by owner strategy. And with that, it doesn't mean that I got every single deal. It means I got almost every single deal that I wanted to get, which goes back to the first part that I'm going to teach you guys today, which is actually selectively picking the people you want to work with. The third part, guys, that I'll share with you here today was the actual conversion at the appointment, right? And there's 2 things that go into converting at an appointment. It's number 1, it's preparation. What kind of data can you bring to the actual seller that's different than what other people are bringing? Most agents are just bringing a folder or packet with marketing, and they're saying, hey, Mr. Seller, here's what other buyers are saying these homes are worth, so this is what your home's gonna be worth. So I really separated myself, and I'll break down how I did. The third part of this formula, which was getting the listing at the listing presentation, the first part that I really tried to do was separate myself in my preparation. And the second part, guys, was my communication. And I'll say this, I'll highlight this, and if there's any one thing that you write down, watching this video, write this down right now. The real estate agent that communicates their value proposition at a higher level than their competition will always get the business. I'll say it one more time. The real estate agent that communicates their value proposition at an extremely higher level than their competition will always get the business. Imagine this, guys. You had real estate agent A, right, that had, let's call it, right, 2 months of experience like I had. And then you have real estate agent B that has 15 years of experience. Real estate agent B has a great marketing system. He has a great CRM. He's got 150 sales per year for the last 15 years. And he's got it all dialed in, right? He knows how to, once he gets the client, he knows exactly what to do, right? But real estate agent B isn't a good communicator. When he sits down at a listing presentation in front of a stranger, he doesn't know how to really articulate the stuff that in his brain, and this is a very big difference. The stuff that in his brain is more advanced than real estate agent B, but the way that he articulates it through his mouth is significantly less coherent than real estate agent A, that, by the way, has only been doing it for 2 months, doesn't have the experience, doesn't have the frameworks and the formulas, but he has a really good team behind him that can actually help him and support him through the deal, which is where most of you guys are at. Most of you guys are real estate agent A, but you're scared of real estate agent B because they have more experience, more deals, more systems, and more marketing. All you need to understand is that if you are real estate agent A and you learn how to articulate and communicate your message at a significantly higher level than real estate agent B, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get the business. And as long as you know how to figure it out, I'll say it again, as long as you know how to figure it out, you're going to eventually become just as experienced as real estate agent B in maybe half the time that it took him to get there. Just because you were prepared and you knew how to communicate and articulate your message at a significantly higher level. If you guys take anything away from my content, understand that it's communication, guys. All the marketing, the contracts, the transactions, the actual step-by-step checklist you got to follow to get a deal from contract to close, it doesn't matter if you can't get the client to freaking sign with you guys. So what I need you guys to understand is you don't need to be real estate agent B. You don't have to have years of experience or systems in place or marketing teams or transaction coordinators to start. You need to know how to communicate and articulate your message. And that's what I'm going to help you guys understand in this video. And that's what helped me actually get, because a lot of you guys might be getting the appointments. A lot of you guys might be getting on the phone and getting the actual opportunities. But when you get to the opportunity, you don't know how to communicate and articulate. So I'm going to dive right into this, guys. Let's go back to part number 1, which is actually picking your client. And I want to resonate with you guys right now. I was also a dirt broke real estate agent that didn't have skills, didn't have confidence. I didn't know what I was doing or what to do next. Most of you guys, and this might hit really, really hard, a lot of you guys are working your ass off. A lot of you guys are doing the things you're supposed to be doing, but you're just doing them in the wrong way because you don't have the right guidance. You guys are, imagine this, you guys are, when you go to the gym and you get on a treadmill and you're running at like 8.5, 9 speed and you're sweating. Imagine if you guys were running on a treadmill in the wrong direction. How much longer can you guys afford to continue running in the wrong direction? Some of you guys are questioning yourselves, why am I not getting the results that he's getting? I'm smarter than him. I'm better than him. I'm putting in more hours. I'm waking up earlier. I'm going to sleep later. It's not that you're not running. You're running in the absolute wrong direction. Tip number 1, guys. When picking your prospects, let's pick for sale by owner as the niche, right? Let's say you pick for sale by owner as a niche and you want to focus in on that, which, by the way, I think is the best way to do it, because if you pick too many lead sources, you're not going to become the best at one. You pick for sale by owner as a niche. You're in the market of Miami, Florida. There's 300 for sale by owners. Would you guys agree with me that out of those 300 for sale by owners, there's going to be a group of for sale by owners that are significantly better prospects than others? The answer should be 100% yes. What I did at a very early stage in my career was I identified that there was a group of for sale by owners that I should be calling first on a priority. A lot of you guys might be going on Zillow and just dialing, right? A lot of you guys might just be going on a dialer and just dialing. I'm going to give you guys the 2 or 3 tips that I use to selectively prospect people and have a significantly higher conversion rate. Write this down. Number 1, I called people that were for sale by owners that had less than 2 people on title. I'll let you guys write that down. Less than 2 people on title. Why? There's some for sale by owners that have 3 people on title, 4 people, 5 people. It was a probate, it was a will situation. Maybe some are investors and they have multiple decision makers. To get a real estate deal closed, you don't have to close the deal one time. You have to close the deal over 10 times. You have to sell the point where they sign with you. You have to sell the point where they put it on the market at a certain price. You have to sell the point where they accept the contract from the buyer or the seller, from the buyer. You have to sell the point where they have to negotiate inspection credits, appraisal credits, closing credits. So you have to make the sale several times. And sometimes, most of the time, it's not going to be easy. The less amount of decision makers that you guys can involve in that process, and more importantly, I'll give you guys an extra secret tip here that I usually only share with my private clients. But if you guys are able to find husband and wife typically, in my experience, are unison. So it's not really 2 decision makers. Sometimes they'll tell you the BS, I need to talk to my wife, I need to talk to my husband, but typically husband and wife, they talk about this. They're selling a home, it's important. And they are usually 1 decision maker together most of the time. So it is significantly easier. The way that I calculated this, guys, was if I have property A and property B, and they're both the same price, and they're both paying me the same commission, and property A takes me 30 hours less to sell than property B, which property do you guys think I want to work with 100% of the time? Property A. So by having less decision makers involved, I was always getting to the closing faster because I was having to convince or persuade less people to move forward. That is tip number 1, guys. And I'm not saying, I want to clarify this, I'm not saying that you can't close a deal with 3 or 4 or 5 people on title. I'm just saying it's harder. Why? It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. 2 or less people on title, brother, sister, husband, and wife was typically my preferred niche. So even within the niche, I was niching down even further. So that's tip number 1 when it comes to selectively prospecting. Find 2 people or less on title. Tip number 2 is find specific property types to pursue. So not only do different lead sources have different sales processes, but different property types have different sales processes as well. For example, the way that you close a single family home or a townhome is completely different than the way that you close a condominium or a multifamily or a piece of land, right? Or a commercial building. So within the niche of for sale by owner, I was looking for people that had less than 2 people on title, and I was only prospecting townhomes and single family homes. A lot of the single family homes that I was prospecting didn't have HOA approvals. So we go back to the analogy I was making of property A and property B. If property A has no HOA approval and property B has a significantly long 30 to 45 day approval, which property do you think is going to sell quicker? And it's not just about one home. If you want to do 30 transactions in a year for 5 years, it adds up, guys. If you spend significantly less time on properties and transactions and the whole process, you can go out there and prospect more business and end up closing more deals. So the second big tip I'm going to give you guys that I want you guys to write down is that specify property types. And I would recommend single families and townhomes specifically. Condominiums, especially in Florida, I don't know if in your market it's a bit different. They're much more complicated and much more difficult to close. And this is not about I'm not saying it can't happen or you can't do it. You could do it, but it makes more sense to do it faster so that whatever your end goal is, guys, because some of you guys might want to be realtors forever, but a lot of you guys don't. Maybe you want to be a coach, a broker, a team leader, an investor, a fixer, and a flipper. And the faster that you can generate the funds and help people sell and buy, the faster you can get to that next end goal. So by specializing in certain aspects of this process, you're going to get there significantly faster. So tip number 2 is, guys, find a specific property type to pursue. Tip number 3 on this first section, guys, and I know this video is going on a bit long. I need you guys to understand that this framework and this strategy that I'm teaching you took me from one of the dumbest people in my high school and a dropout of college, making literally $120 a day as a caddy, to a top producing agent and now one of the most respected and top real estate coaches in the world in less than 4 years. Okay, so I need you guys to lock this in. The third part about the selective prospecting framework that I've created is very, very simple. And you guys might think it's silly when I say this. Call more expensive properties that have a higher percentage of equity. If you guys don't know this software called PropStream, it's a software that lets you identify, number one, estimated property value, and number two, estimated loan balance. So here's how this works, right? There's 300 for sale by owners in a market, Miami, Florida. Let's use it for an example. And out of those 300 for sale by owners, there's properties that are significantly more expensive than others. Let's go even further. Out of those significantly more expensive properties, there's a group of those properties that have a significantly lower loan balance. So when you end up selling that home, the seller now has more equity to either reinvest into another primary home or in other investments. And if you understand what you're doing and you get to the point where you can help somebody do a 1031 exchange or move their money around into different investments to get different forms of cash flow, you're going to end up transacting more. Okay, so not only go for the most expensive properties, filter them on your dialer or on for sale by owner. It's very, very simple to do that. You go to price and you put minimum 500, 600, 700,000, depending on what kind of price points are in your market. And you focus on a priority list of calling the most expensive homes and the ones that have the most amount of equity first. And it's very simple to do once you use Zillow and PropStream together. I'm gonna recap this first section, guys. The first thing you need to do when prospecting before you even get on the phone is pick the best prospects to call. First thing you're gonna do is pick people with less than 2 people on title. The second thing you're gonna do is pick a specific property type, preferably single family home or townhomes. And the third thing you guys are gonna do is pick properties that are more expensive and then have lower loan balances, creating more equities and more opportunity. Now, second part of this training, guys, is the actual part where you get on the phone. And I don't wanna overwhelm you guys on this section. There's plenty of other videos that I'm gonna come out with that go in depth on the actual framework on the phone. But the first thing that really set me apart from other agents was my complete detachment from the outcome. And this is very important because if you're a real estate agent and you need money, you need transactions, you need closings, it's very difficult to go into an appointment or a presentation and put the person that you have no idea who they are, put their interest before your interest. What that does though, it creates a tension-free environment where when you go in there, you're asking questions in their best interest and you're guiding them in their best interest. And the prospect feels that. When you need the business or when you want the business, the prospect feels that. And here's what I'm trying to get at. In order for us to get through to a for sale by owner, psychologically or emotionally, or any other prospect, they need to trust you. They need to trust you. And if they think that you are working in not their best interest, they're not going to trust you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to give you the truth. So when you're on the phone and when you're in person with an opportunity, understand this: no matter how good your product is, no matter who you work with, whether it's Douglas Elliman, One Sotheby's, Keller Williams, or EXP, no matter how good the marketing is, or no matter how good of a service you're going to provide, if they don't trust you, they're never going to tell you the truth. If you don't find out the truth, you're never going to get their business. That's part number one of being on the phone or being in person. Get detached from the outcome. Part number two, guys, and I'll give you this. When I got on the phone, I started creating pattern interrupts. I started hearing everybody else start the conversations. Because here's the thing. Most agents don't even understand how to get on the phone. The secret that I understood very quickly, and I'm going to share with you guys right now, was that all you have to do was get on the phone and get them into a pain state. So let's break this down real quick. A for sale by owner has certain pains and they have a problem that they're trying to solve. In trying to solve that problem, they're trying to create an ideal outcome. For example, let's say we have for sale by owner A that's selling a property and their family's growing, right? There are certain pains and problems that they're currently dealing with because they have a timeline. The wife is pregnant, she's due in 5 months. They need the money to buy another house, build a room for the new baby, and be settled in all by the time that the baby comes. That is their pain and their problem. Most of you agents are calling them and talking about commission, listing, and services. Instead, you want to identify their pain, their problem, and create what's called their ideal outcome. Their ideal outcome most of the time in this specific situation is to sell the property for the most amount of money and get there with as little hiccups or problems along the way as possible. Okay? And this is the art of asking the right questions. You're going to be able to uncover the pain, the problem, the ideal outcome, and more importantly, at the end, not at the beginning like the most of you guys do, is present the vehicle. Here's pain and problem, here's ideal outcome. You create a bridge on the phone call, which creates the want and the reason for them to even sit down with you. And you present the vehicle, which is the actual presentation, the service or the product, which is going to help them get to their ideal outcome. So what I'm trying to help you guys understand is, number one, you have to learn how to get, there's a video, by the way, that you can click on my YouTube where I break down my entire for sale by owner script. Learn how to consistently get into conversations. And here's the simplest way you can do it. Most agents sound like this. John, this is actually Alexis. I'm calling you from eXp Realty. I just clicked on the property on 156 Southwest 16th Street. Do you have a moment to talk? Can I chat with you for 30 seconds? If I bring you a buyer, will you pay me commissions? That's how most agents start their call, right? Increased tone, like that salesy, pitchy tone. They talk about their company, they talk about themselves, they say the entire address, and they immediately start using trigger words like commissions. Here's how my students sound. Hey, John. Yeah, John, really brief. I'm sure you're getting a ton of these calls, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just clicked on the home on 5th. Out of curiosity, is that property still available, or did you guys already happen to put a contract on it? It's an either or question, so I'm already immediately going to get in the conversation. Even if they're like, are you a realtor? Do you have a buyer? Can you bring something? I'm already in the conversation, and now I can go ahead and start managing and overcoming objections and ask the right questions that's going to create that pain and problem. I'll show you how to do it in a second. But if you don't create a pattern interrupt and you sound like everybody else, you're already working against yourself, and you're likely going to continue to just get hung up on. Part number 1 is pattern interrupt, okay? Part number 2, guys, is qualifying questions on the phone. Understand this. Until you create, and here's how humans make decisions in life, okay? A lot of real estate agents want to present logical reasons to for sale by owners as to why they should meet with them. Like, hey, look, statistically proven working with a realtor is going to give you more money. Hey, look, if you didn't have to take all these phone calls, your life would be so much simpler. Hey, look, if you put the property on the market, you're going to get more exposure and you're going to make more money. These are all logical reasons as to why a for sale by owner should actually work with a realtor. The one component you guys are missing is the emotional reasoning. If they're not, and here's what I'll say this, guys. People make decisions dependent on their state, right? Understand this. People make decisions dependent on their state, which means how they feel, okay? So if someone feels annoyed, bombarded, and frustrated, and you're just trying to present them a solution, they're not going to take it. But if someone feels scared and excited at the same time, and you cause that state, they're going to listen to you. So here's the thing, right? Let's go back to the example of the for sale by owner that has a pregnant wife that's due in 5 months that wants to upgrade from the house they're at now to another house. Hey, John, is that property still available, or is it already under contract? It's still available. You're a realtor? Yeah, John, I am an agent, and listen, I'll be very brief. I'm sure you've gotten a ton of calls from a bunch of agents. I just wanted to know if I did connect you with a client that had an offer that made sense, if you guys are completely against the idea of compensating an agent, as long as the numbers made sense for you guys. Well, look, man, we're not against it. We're paying 1.5%. My wife and I just want to go ahead and sell this property. We have some stuff that's moving around, some personal things that are happening, and we want to make the most amount of money and get over to property B. That's totally fair, John. And again, here, the last thing I want to do is, waste you and your wife's time. I know you get a ton of calls. I guess from what I'm understanding, I could be wrong here. Your objective here is to obviously sell this property, and when it's all said and done, make the most amount of money from it, right? Correct. Yeah, John's going to say correct. That's called a tie down. So, I mean, John, let me ask you this. Like I said, I don't want to waste your time. If I did connect you guys with a client, what would the next steps look like for you guys in order to get this property closed? John's then going to reveal, and this doesn't happen every single time, guys. I'm just giving you an example in this video. John's going to reveal, well, look, Alexis, man, my wife's pregnant. We got to go ahead and get rid of this property. We obviously don't want to give it away. We're buying a new property. We're upgrading. Our family's growing. So we want to obviously get over there and sell this home for the most amount of money. And we just don't want to pay commissions. And John, that's totally fair. And by the way, congratulations that you and your wife are going to be expecting a new baby. I'm sure the last thing you guys want to be doing is taking calls from a bunch of real estate agents. I guess out of curiosity, let me ask you this. And I'm kind of skipping a little bit, guys, but just to give you an example. Out of curiosity, John, let me ask you this. I know right now you guys obviously, if possible, want to avoid using an agent and save as much as possible on the commissions. If there was even a way that an agent can sit down in front of you and actually expose this property in front of significantly more qualified buyers and not only leverage you guys a much higher offer, but more importantly, smoothly transition you and your wife into the property that you guys are obviously dreaming of and can get you guys there in a timeline that's completely okay with you guys. I mean, I'm sure working with an agent at that point is not something you guys would even consider, right? And then John will be like, well, I mean, when you put it that way, I'm obviously going to consider that, right? That's what I call emotional questioning, vision-based emotional questioning. So I asked John, and I was very detailed. Instead of saying, John, when you move, or John, when you get an offer, how quickly can you move? I said, John, let me ask you this. Say that you got the right offer with the right numbers, and we were able to smoothly transition you and your wife into the property that you guys dreamt of, all in the way of making you guys significantly more net money. Instead of saying, John, is that something you'd be open to? I said, John, I'm assuming that's not even something you'd consider, even if it meant getting all that done, right? And then John's probably gonna say, well, I mean, what do you mean? How can you do that differently? How much would you charge? But the whole point I'm trying to make is, you guys, if you guys learn how to communicate, it's not that the leads are saturated, it's not that too many people are calling, right? It's that you're not saying the right things. So some of you guys have this like theory that you just got to make more calls and just, it's a numbers game. Fucking sales is not a numbers game, guys. It is a skill set game. While you make 200 calls and don't know what to say, I make 5 and get 4 appointments. So do you guys want to continue being agent A that makes 200 calls and gets nothing, or agent B that's a sniper, an assassin, and knows exactly what to say to every prospect and can decide, honestly, truthfully, based on the motivation and the timeline, whether or not they even want to work with them, right? So the 2 parts of this, and the third part is objection handling, but I have another separate video that I'll link down below. It's an entire objection handling masterclass. It's going to show you guys exactly how to manage and overcome objections. Because once you start getting in the conversation, you use your pattern interrupt, you get in the conversation, you start asking these questions, you're still going to get objections. So I'll link it down below. I'll make sure my team puts it down below, guys, so you know exactly how to manage and overcome every objection that you're getting. But the first 2 things you need to understand is that once you identify the right leads to call, you have to be able to get into these conversations consistently. More importantly, you have to be able to create the pain, the problem, have them experience that emotion on the phone, change their state, and then create their ideal outcome, which is going to take them from feeling scared by the questions you're asking to saying, you know what, I would really love that. I know I wasn't going to use an agent, but what do you have to say? Now that they're in a buying state, they're in an excited state, you can then present the vehicle. Hey, look, John, I don't know if it would make sense or not. Obviously, right now, you just told me your goals are to hopefully avoid an agent, but at the end of the day, I think you're prioritizing making more money, correct? All I propose is passing by the home on Wednesday or Thursday at 5 or 6, sitting down, walking through some information, and if anything makes sense at that point, John, we can share more details. Fair? Fair. Now you guys have a listing presentation, and I'm going to wrap this up for you guys here in the next 3-4 minutes. But the only 2 things that you need to understand that are going to separate you guys at a listing presentation is your preparation and, like I've been showing you guys and demonstrating, your communication. What do you need to prepare? You guys need to understand that the person that's going to dictate the sale of the home is not you, it's not the appraiser, it's not the seller, it is the buyer. The more buyers that you're able to get in front of that property that are qualified, the more people that you're going to be able to communicate, show the property, and show them why they should buy this home at the highest amount possible, the better outcome you're going to have. So here's what I did for preparation. I made sure to go through every active, every under contract, and every closed listing in, call it a mile radius of my subject property. Not only did I print out the comparables, but I did significant property research on every home, and I called all the other agents that were representing those sellers so I can gather as much information about where I should position my subject property's price on the market, okay? Because think about this, guys. If you have 5 homes on the market in a certain neighborhood, would you agree with me that having your property as the number 1 option based on price, condition, size is going to make it more likely for you to get more inquiries? Would you guys agree? Obviously, yes. So our goal is not to go and say, hey, Mr. Seller, well, another home comparable to yours sold for 500, so you should sell yours for 505. Our goal is to help the seller understand, and we can make a completely different video on how I walk through a pricing strategy. Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to make that. But we need to get the seller to understand through data and questioning. They have to self-realize that putting the property at a certain price is going to help them get their goal. Because some sellers have this magical number, if you guys can relate, they have like this, I want 550. If I don't get 550, I'm not going to sell it. Well, if you want the most amount of money, Mr. Seller, you need to position it in a strategical way to get the most amount of buyers. So the first thing, guys, is prepare. Go through active, under contract, closed deals, understand the school zones, understand the restaurants, understand the logistics of your subject property at a higher level than anybody else. Because the only thing we're trying to communicate to our seller, and the most important part is not the fucking marketing, it's actually putting the property in a position on the market that's going to get you the most amount of inquiries. That way you can actually communicate the value of the home. And the second thing, guys, is actually being able to communicate this. Because let's say, again, let's go back to storytelling. Agent A, Agent B. Agent A and Agent B did the same amount of research. They got the same amount of information. Agent A knows how to communicate that information. He knows how to ask questions, and he knows how to walk the seller through a process where the seller can self-realize why doing the strategy is important. And Agent B just goes in there and tells the seller, hey, this did this, so you should do this, and this did that, so you should do that. Who do you think is going to win the business 9 out of 10 times, guys? Agent A. So not only do you need to know how to prepare the information, but you need to know how to communicate the information. And I'll end the video with this. If you guys are struggling, if you guys want to learn how to communicate the way I'm communicating to you, I have an entire free school community that you guys can click on. It's going to be in the description below. You're going to get all my scripts and over 25 extended training videos going in depth on how to elaborate on everything we talked about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.